Where we at? Tell my man Seth. Where we at?
I got game, my aim is true, barrels and straight winning it. From FP to RTS, I'm all into it. I seen your words online, now it's game time. We all know that you're just talk, now you're all mine. LOL, BF, Madden's all the same. A serial killer committed murder inside the game. Now you're beaten, yellow now, player no more. Back to the minors, game over, off F4.
Alright, and welcome to Alt F4, where pro gamers live. I am Jay LaRock, and we are powered by the Obsolete Gamer Network, and we are proud to be doing our final show for 2018. And 2018 has been really interesting for pro gaming, and I really wanted to get, someone who I consider an expert on this, and I don't think anyone's better at being able to talk about just the esports industrial revolution than TriForce. Thanks for joining us again today.
And thanks for having me. New Year's Eve from last guy on your show. I'm honored.
Oh yeah, and we've talked before on the Obsolete Gamer Show about esports and the esports industrial revolution, and your insight has always been great because you lived it. Guys like you, Fatality, way back in the day saw how it was coming up when everyone was still laughing and thinking that esports was not going to really become anything. And in 2018, you've seen kind of this explosion. And what's interesting is that to people on the outside or even gamers who don't pay that much attention, they may just see it and say, hey, look, this is something good. This is something new. But you actually see it from the inside and see maybe the darker underbelly that we don't see. Can you tell us a little bit about your observations of esports in 2018?
Well, you have to go back to the past. When you go back to the past, then you'll understand what's happening right now, and then you'll be able to have insight on what's coming up in the future. There are stages in esports and how it's changed. You had the class. Well, you'll have the classic age of esports versus the modern age. The classic age used a lot of retro arcade and console games. That's the Twin Galaxies, the Walter Day Twin Galaxies, what pretty much created the first infrastructure to turn competitive gaming into a sport, aka esports, because that's what this is all about. But Walter and his friends, the people he grew up with, really put together that foundation, and you had it based on records head-to-heads in the arcades against other players in terms of points. And then shortly after, late 80s going on in the early 90s, Street Fighter really complemented that scene all the way up until pretty much 1994, 96. This is the age of Fatality. This is where Fatality comes in. PC games over 56k modem or whatever, broadband, and Quake and Doom and all these other games, Unreal. Those were the games that really made esports then focus on just a direct head-to-head competition. So Fatality ushered in that age, which then brought in DreamHack, World Cyber Games, CPL, MLG, Evo, and so forth. And that ran its course all the way to what we have now, which is the industrial esports revolution. And the industrial esports revolution is based on corporate entities coming in and restructuring the entire esports ecosystem. Everything, the whole landscape gets completely just changed over to a modernized, more industrial setting, so that based on today's technologies, based on today's resources, they can reach more people, and they really can make a business out of it. It is now global. As opposed, it was always global, but it was global commercially in terms of, actually, I'm sorry, let me take that back. It was global from a community niche point of view. And now the suits have made done a good job in making it global commercially by industrializing it. So everyone's involved, and obviously, unlike what Walter had to work with back then, he didn't have the internet. He had a phone. So the limited technology that they had back then, they had to make it work. Everything was published through books, Guinness Book of World Records, video game magazines, and things of that nature. That's what they had to work on. Today, now we have YouTube, we have Twitch, we have network television, commercial television, telecommunication companies, internet service providers. All of these things and then big corporations that's dumping millions of dollars into all of this. So it changed the entire landscape. So we're now in a modern esports age. And these guys, everyone should have seen this coming, because this is what happens in any industry. This is not rocket science. This is not that people being a prophet or visionary. This is just how the system works. And like I said, this year they did a real good job, because the community really gave up. A lot of these community-based esports platforms, or scenes, or communities, they gave up a lot of their powers over the years. In the last 10 years, they gave up a tremendous amount of power to the gaming companies that actually make the games. So now, these companies are going to take a page out of League of Legends book. Like, it's their game. You're going to need a license to run that. It's no different from the NBA when they started. Remember when that line, it says rebroadcasting or recording or redistribution of any NBA material is strictly prohibited, etc., etc. You have to go through the National Basketball Association. Same thing for football, same thing for baseball. That's where we are right now. So you want to run Smash Brothers, you got to go through Nintendo. You want to run League of Legends, you got to go through Riot. You want to run Street Fighter, you got to go through Capcom. You want to run Soul Calibur, Dragon Ball, you got to go through Namco, etc., etc.
Well, so to that point, now we've talked before about just how like esports, especially the competitions, have been run in the past, and you've had some that's been decent, but then you've had some that has been terrible. And we've had other pro gamers on who's talked about tourneys where they don't pay, or it's shady, or you don't know what's going on. So I guess the question is that obviously whenever the suits take over anything, it can end up watering it down, people losing power, losing opportunity. But are there benefits in that they'll be less, I guess, taking advantage of gamers? Or is it almost like just a new way of taking advantage of pro gamers?
Well, that's a good question, actually. I'm for and against the suits, as I'm for and I'm against the community. I'm neutral. There is no altruism in this. There is no side that's good and the other side that's bad. Both sides are good, both sides are bad. Both sides have great things that come out of it. Both sides have problems that come out of it. When I talk about the community losing power, is that the community had an opportunity to level the playing field and work with the industry, work with the suits, and bring a more balanced and robust esports ecosystem. Unfortunately, they gave up that power due to a lot of petty stuff going on in the scene between the tournament organizers, the players who are shilling to brands for sponsorships and all this other foolishness. But these things are a part of the scene. It's so all these things that are happening, it's supposed to happen. That's how it works. This is the industry. This is what it's about. Let's talk about the benefits of the suits getting involved. They get to do what the community never had the power to do, which was commercialize and make people take serious esports. The community never had the power to do that. It never did. And which is why the community had to go to the suits, because only the suits could make this work, make this commercially accepted, make this viable to the world to be seen and taken seriously. If not for the suits, we'd still be in that age where people are laughing at video games. Like, you play video games, like go get a job or something like that. So that's the benefits. That's one of the benefits. Another benefit, the financial output. Financial output is like 100,000 times more powerful than it ever was, than it ever could be, and it's only becoming stronger. So players, organizers, and people who work in the ecosystem, they benefit from this. They literally, truly can make a living. Back then, when it was community run, you only had a handful of people who could make a living off of this. Because the suits are involved, you can get more people to make a living off of it. And the more the suits are involved, the more people can make a living off of it. Look at Ninja. Look at the numbers Ninja is making.
Yeah.
That would be conceived as impossible 20 years ago. Literally impossible. And now he's not the only one. There are many other different content creators in gaming that they don't make like what Ninja's making, but these guys are making more than what soldiers who are risking their lives in war are making, more than surgeons, more than politicians. It's wild. It is literally wild. That is all thanks to the powers of the suit. Sponsorship opportunities, small businesses are being developed in the esports ecosystem. All of these things are done due to the power of the suits, which is why we wanted to get the suits involved in the first place. But at the very same time, we wanted to share in that power and work with the suits in that, so that you could have a balanced esports ecosystem with the community, so we wouldn't lose the spirit of the scene. We wouldn't lose that, unfortunately. And I do stress the word unfortunately. By giving up our power, we have lost that tremendously. And this is the negative side of the suit. Everything gets watered down now to a corporate, aka professional standpoint. So the very essence of, let's give you an example, right? A lot of people complain about the NBA today versus the NBA yesterday. Back then in the NBA yesterday, outside of fights, because we don't condone fighting, right? Showboating, dunking, taunting, a lot of the things like the grind, the grit of the sport is what made it great. You see what I'm saying? Like, right. The rivalries, all of those things. But now we're in a watered down NBA where you can't breathe on anyone, right? If you dunk on the rim and you try to hold on the rim or slap the glass or anything like that, technical foul. Like, Come on, man. Like the purpose of the person dunking is to express the 2 points that they're getting. That's the whole point. Like Sean Kemp, I remember Sean Kemp dunked on Chambers, swung off the rim, landed down, started pointing at him, and that was hypeness. You can't do that. In fact, you may get ejected for that. So that essence of the game is gone. And that's what the suits do. You can't do that. There is no more showboating. They go, oh, that's unperfect. That's unsportsmanlike. No, unsportsmanlike conduct is fighting. That's unprofessional. That's unsportsmanlike conduct. There's nothing wrong with expressing your ability over another person. Person doesn't like it, step your game up and show your expression. Back then, John Starks dunked on Michael Jordan and Horace Grant. Michael Jordan would come back and dunk on John Starks and be like, hold on, and then run up the court. And that was the thing. You remember when Michael Jordan dunked on Dikembe Mutombo when Mutombo said that that no one could ever dunk on him. Michael Jordan waved his finger on him. He got a technical foul. But like, no one cared. The crowd still cheered. Mutombo was graceful about it. He took the dunk. He's like, all right, Jordan got me. And Jordan still waved his finger. He didn't care if the refs teed him up. And that's what makes you watch the games. So in the same thing in esports, that we're going to get that. Everything's going to get watered down, and you're going to get a lot of, it's just stupid. And because people watch these games because of that. That's what they watch for. And
it's a matter of them not understanding either, because like in esports, even back in the day when there wasn't even esports and you just put a quarter on someone's arcade, that was a challenge. And sometimes you talk smack and it was all good. I mean, yes, granted, people nowadays can get out of hand. You hear about swatting and people going out of hand, but I don't think you can always put the two together. As soon as you talk trash, it doesn't mean you're going to start fighting or swatting people or doing something. It's almost like boxing. You do that little showing game or UFC, you can still talk smack before the match. It doesn't have to get crazy. And if someone comes in, it's almost like what happened with Vegas. It seems like your analogy where Vegas used to be gambling, and then someone said, hey, we could turn it into a family place. And yeah, the gambling's still there, but that essence of Vegas is gone.
Exactly. So, but you have to take, it's a trade. Like I said, the community had an opportunity to work with the suits, and we could have had the best of both worlds. Unfortunately, a lot of greed a lot of like, it's just a lot of in-house fighting that everyone was just looking out for themselves. So the suits, for me, this is where I applaud the suits. They have to come in and clean up the work, because it's better to have something than nothing. And if it takes the suits cleaning that up and we lose that part of esports, then it is an unfortunate thing. But it is better to have something than have nothing. We worked 30 years to get esports to where it is now. We're not going to lose it over foolishness. So it's just one of those things you just have to adapt to. Some organizations are willing to bend a little bit and keep some of the spirit of the competitive scene, where some other organizations, they're stainless steel professional about it. But that's just what it is. So you just have to take what you can get at this point.
Now, what about access? Because, back in the day, looking at some of the documentaries, even the ones that you've been in, about how someone would get to esports and like how you would meet up with this person. You go to an arcade, you get connected with a crew, and then trying to separate yourself. You mentioned Ninja. I mean, he's now in commercials. I saw him on a cell phone commercial and things like that. Is it to the point now that, do you think it'll be easier because these companies came in, that you can go and become known? Or will it be the reverse, where they're just going to take either the top of the top or the flavor of the month and put them up almost like a model, and then everyone else is kind of like in the background, and then people will know even less esports people unless they're really deeply into the scene?
Well, to answer your question, it's option 2. In terms of back in the old esports infrastructure, everyone had a fair playing ground to try to rise and become a star. In this age with the suits, your chances are literally like 0.1%, because they determine who gets. There are all types of gatekeeping. There are all types of marginalizing. It is harder now for a player to rise up. There are only 2 ways you can rise up, right? Due to social media trends, which you have to follow the algorithm of today or whatever that is, and that is going to get you there. And then you got to hope that you're selected, someone backs you. You have to follow certain guidelines, invisible guidelines and rules, and it's about who you know, not what you know, and that gets you up there. That puts you in a position of Ninja. Ninja knew the right people. The right people decided to say, okay, we're going to go with him. He's been grinding at battle royale style games for a while before he just got into that position. Bam, he got a game with Drake, and it just literally snowballed into what he's into right now. And that's because he was selected. Gamers, they either got to go through it that way, or they're going to have to become like Sonic Fox. They just have to become so godlike they just dominate the scene. So the majority, a good 99% of the entire scene is going to be iced out. They have to fight. That's that. I don't like to use this. Well, I'm not going to use this word. I'll use another word. It's dog eat dog. Everyone's going to have to just destroy themselves. It's every man for themselves. That's literally what it is. So it's going to create a complete massacre in the scene just for anyone to make it. People will literally have to sell out principles, morals, everything, teams, whatever it is, because the suits control who gets in and who goes out. It's not like, oh, this was determined by a fair playing field, and everyone has to fight amongst each other, and you have to rise up where, okay, even though we got the first guy, we can, there's still, other teams will still, other industries and other businesses and teams will still work with the second guy, third guy, fourth guy, fifth guy. Now we're in a scene where it's just number one or nothing. Think of it like samurai, Afro samurai. It's all about the number one headband. No one cares about number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, it's about the number one headband. Right. So it's just a massacre. Everyone's just going to be killing each other just to get there. So friends who grew up in the scene and gaming, they're all destroyed. So the only way this is going to equalize itself is when an actual esports union gets involved, right? Because that's what literally equalizes the system. So it's going to be a while before a union gets involved, because the government's going to need to get involved. Uncle Sam needs to collect his tax. All of that garbage is going to need to happen first, or whatever the case may be. that's why I built my team the way I built my team, because we already knew what was coming and we needed to find a way to survive. So our team is more of a commonwealth. We don't follow the modern capitalistic system. It doesn't work. Not in esports. We're not at that point where it is refined, where it gives an equal opportunity or equal opportunity in employment. It's not like that. If you look at the esports infrastructure today, and you look at the companies that are running esports, the majority of the people who are working in esports are Caucasian or Asian. Now, some people argue, well, that's because the minorities don't know anything about esports. That is an absolute lie. That's 100% lie. But the media controls what information goes out. So the perception to the people is that Hispanics, Africans, Indians, Native Americans, Arabs, any of the other people don't have no idea what's going on in esports. That's 100% a lie. We know just as much as the leaders in esports, which is the Asians and the Caucasians. We just don't have a platform that allows us to expand in that area.
It's interesting that you say that, because I was going to ask you, do you think that we almost going to need like what happened like in film and in television, where back in the day it was like, oh, well, the reason why you usually only see certain people on television is because these are the only people that are coming to apply to audition, and then you come to find out, no, actually all these other people try to audition and they get turned down for whatever reason. Could it get to the point where you'll have someone who's really good at a game, but maybe they just don't fit the profile? Because unfortunately, one of the things that we've seen with Suits is that they're not looking at just how good you are at a game. They're saying, do you have a personality? Are you good looking? Do you look good on camera? Do you market well? And and I'm wondering what happens to these gamers who may be on the other end, who their skills are up there, but the suits say, I'm sorry, you just don't have the quote face to be our brand. And then they're going to always be lower class in esports.
Well, that happens now, and that happened before. I'm a victim to that, which is fine, because the answer to that is simply go back to your ethnic country of origin. That's the answer. This is the main reason why I went back to Africa, because I want to help build up Africa's own esports infrastructure and make it stronger, because the majority of the people there are Black. So that once it's about building your own, and the global esports industry, the table is so huge, you can fit the whole world on it, and then some. You can fit the whole galaxy on it. Everyone can have something to contribute to the table. The problem is that more people focus on building up other people's esports ecosystem rather than going to build their own. Let me give you an example. Right, take a look at YouTube. PewDiePie has been dominating YouTube since YouTube. Number one, India decides to get involved. India focuses on its ethnic group. Now PewDiePie's in trouble. Literally. Like how many months has it been? It hasn't even been a year yet. PewDiePie's in trouble because one ethnic group's national interest said, we are going to back our ethnic group. So if the Chinese do it, the Indians do it, the Africans can do it. The Latinos can do it, the Hispanics can do it, everyone can do it. And if you do that, then you'll have a United Nations esports council. So you'll have everyone representing everyone. Then you'll get a fair table, and everyone can push in. So if you're Hispanic, let's say you're Dominican, but you're not being represented in the North American esports ecosystem, well, you can go to the Dominican Republic, you go to Latino, the South America, the Latin American region, and find a better representation there and go through there. It almost this literally is the building blocks that builds up the Olympics, because that's what it comes down to. So everyone's going to be representing their own ethnic or national identity. That's not a bad thing. This is how the world has always been. There's nothing wrong with that, and I'm all for it. Which is why I literally went to Africa for that particular reason, because I want to get our African team ready. Literally, there's a gentleman called his name from called Kabina from Virtual Union. He literally said that when I was at the African Commonwealth Conference for Esports Structure and Summit, the Access Summit, he literally said Empire Arcadia is like Africa's world esports team. Like, we represent Africa, and we do, because the majority of our organization is African. Although we have Caucasians, Asians, and everybody else, so we welcome everyone. We're inclusive team, but the majority of our team is African, and me being of African origin, I represent my African identity. So that is the future. You're gonna see that, and that's what's gonna that's the driving force that's gonna bring esports to the Olympics. Literally, you watch and see, because that's what it's all about. And this is all good for the scene. It's actually a good thing. It is not a bad thing. I don't want people looking and say, "Oh, this is a bad thing." It is a good thing. This is what's gonna make esports phenomenal. But to answer your question directly, no, people are all gonna get iced out. The suits determine everything. So you have to go build your own. If you don't build your own, then you're going to have to go by the superpowers in esports right now, which is the US, Europe, China, and Korea. Those are the superpowers. India is on the rise. The Iran is in there. What's the word for this? The Arabs are on the rise. Africa's on the rise. So until those other guys get involved, these are the superpowers that you have to work with unless you build your own. Yeah.
Do you think it's harder for someone to stand out almost in anything, especially in esports? Because one of the things that we thought with the internet, especially early on, was that it kind of gave you a level playing field. You could log on, you could create a website, a blog. With YouTube, you could create your own, your own videos. You could go on Twitch, you create your own stream. And in one sense, it still can be that. You have the access, it doesn't cost too much. But it seems that almost every month that the requirements become higher. At first, it could be just a guy with a camera and telling you or doing something that you're interested in. But now it's like, oh, you don't have nice lights. You don't have nice post-production. You don't have nice music. And it becomes more and more expensive. I almost think of it like when they compare soccer to football. It's easier for soccer to grow in other countries because all you need is a ball, where football, you need pads and you need all this equipment that a lot of people don't have access to. So do you see that as even being another gate for people in the future, where you can't even just plug in your computer and go on Twitch? You have to have this high production that you may not have the expertise or the money to do, just so that you get noticed to get anywhere.
Well, honestly speaking, you have to look at the evolution of the scene. As the scene continues to evolve, so does the requirements, the production, everything. We can't stay at a non-growing scene where someone can get their little flip phone and come in. And no, that's just the bar has raised. As technology raises, the bar raises. So it is, you can get in as easy as anyone, but if you want to go further, you're gonna have to upgrade. And I think that's the right thing to do, because that's just the natural direction of evolution. If you're gonna go in the direction of evolution, you have to evolve. I'm going through the very same thing right now. Like, my YouTube page has always been about archiving. I've gone to vlogging. I'm learning a little bit about Premiere, and I vlog and stuff like that. But all my stuff is like standard stuff. But I'm finding out that that's not good enough. I have to do a little bit more than that. So I'm working. I hired a Lab Video Game TV, and they're creating better post-production work. And then sooner or later, in a year or two from now, I'm gonna have to get better than even that. It's all about evolving, man. The scene has. If you want the scene to survive, it has to continuously be in evolution flux, literally constantly evolving every single day. If you stop the evolution, it dies. It has to keep going. So it is unfortunate, because a lot of people will drown because they won't be able to continuously keep evolving. But then it returns back to the law of the universe: survival of the fittest. Only the strong survives.
What have you seen as far as, I guess, the hardships, what we see as the challenges of trying to expand and grow esports in Africa?
Well, so I want to put something out there just in case anyone tries to change my words. Not saying I'm trying to change my words. I just want to put something out there so that it can never be said that I'm trying to start esports. I'm trying to create esports has always been in Africa for quite some time now. Perhaps not at the level that we look at it in the United States, but it has always been there. For me, it's about going and doing my part, returning home to the motherland and helping my brothers and sisters strengthen the esports infrastructure that they have by providing the experience that I've learned about esports in the 16 years that I've been involved in it from here in the West. That's what my job is. So me going back home when I went to Ghana last week, I've learned a lot of things that the esports scene in Africa isn't as bad as we thought it was. Because when you think Africa, the psychological perception is this completely like destitute continent, and that's not Africa. Those are small parts of Africa. There are large parts of Africa that are literally first world, middle class, wealthy places. Yes, they have poor like everyone else. Trust me, I'll tell you a place in New York that looks third world. In New York, and you're like, what? New York? Yeah, New York. There are third world places in New York, in the Bronx, in Queens, in Staten Island, in Brooklyn. Like the only place you won't find, actually, not even true. Uptown Manhattan, even Manhattan has a third world area. So there are goods and bads in everything, but Africa has a very strong esports infrastructure, and it is growing rapidly, especially with the telecommunication companies, especially with the TV companies. Sorry about that. Especially with the TV companies out there and whatever the case may be, like Kwesi TV, Super Sports, and all of these television companies. They have the resources. The resources is there. It's about getting to these companies who are going to want to help expose those resources. In fact, something? Let me give you an example. So the CEO of EchoNet Media and Modern Times Group is a guy called Joseph Honda, right? Mm-hmm. And he pretty much runs Kwesi TV. So MTG had invested in esports a long time ago, like years ago and stuff like that. So right. I had the privilege while in Africa to come in contact with Joseph, and he said something very profound, right? It's so true, because it just goes to show you the potential and the greatness that esports has, and what's coming. So he says he doesn't think that the media industry understands the type of changes that they're faced with within the next 2 to 5 years. And for him, in his opinion, the only issue is how Africa will position itself in that change, and that seismic movements are happening. And that entire statement, he says, is so profound, because when I was there and I was at Kwesi TV and I saw what Kwesi TV, the television station, is the #1 television station in Ghana and one of the top in the entire continent of Africa. These guys literally lent the resources of their television station to host a FIFA finals in esports. Had the sports desk. I'm talking about Sports Center. Like, this was on some ESPN. I was like, what is going on? And I'm not gonna lie. I would have never thought Africa was at that level yet. Black Africa at that. You would think, oh, South Africa is like that, or like North Africa is like that, because the Caucasians are there, so they get support from the French, the Europeans, the Arabs, and so forth. But Black Africa doesn't get any support from its neighboring organizations. A lot of exploitation, colonization, imperialism goes on. So it's about what they can take from Black Africa, but not what they can give to help Black Africa. So, but when I went to Ghana, no, that wasn't the case. That was not the case. All the different esports entities there, like the Ghana Esports Association, GamerFest, Gamer Republic, Gas Gaming Bros, Virtual Union, all of these, Gamer Lounge, like GGC, so many of these different organizations all work together to kind of build their own infrastructure, and it is strong. It literally just needs help to become stronger. Now, nothing is perfect, so we're not going to sit here and make it sound like, okay, there's no problems going on. There's always problems in every corporation in the world.
Right.
Like, no one's perfect. But I was pleasantly surprised to see that these guys were actually getting it done on their own. And when I got there, for them, they literally appointed me as an international esports ambassador. So I feel that I've always been working for Africa anyway. So it is, for me, it was a suiting position for them to give me, because that's what I do anyway. And I'm so honored to be able to have that position now officially to help Africa grow. So I'm going to be traveling all through Africa. Nigeria is the next stop, Ivory Coast, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, South Africa, everywhere, Ethiopia. I'm going everywhere in Africa to help network the entire continent of Africa to its African diaspora and esports. Once we do that, we'll have a seat at the table, and we'll be able to contribute, and we'll cut off one of those gatekeep, those guards that marginalize certain people from getting in, because we'll be too big, we'll be too powerful, we'll be too networked, we'll be too connected, we'll be too united. So everybody has to just do that. And when everyone does that, then you're going to have a true inclusive global esports network.
And that's the thing. One of the last things I wanted to ask you about is about the other side, because, just like how you mentioned the NBA, you have the players and then you have everyone working in the NBA. And the same thing with esports. There was a conversation going on about how, 20 years ago, if you said, I want to go into gaming, people would look at you and be like, well, what are you talking about? What are you going to do? Are you going to own an arcade? And now there's so many things that you can do. They're talking about people who are analysts, people who are spokespeople, people who go on and they do the commentary, who they call games. Can you just talk a little bit, especially with the work that you've done, someone who's just looking to contribute, someone's looking to help, someone's looking to get a job, just what it's like to make that push to be an entrepreneur into esports and the different jobs that you can end up doing besides just being one of the professional athletes?
Well, today's esports ecosystem is vastly superior to its past, because esports is literally now creating jobs. It's an economic boost to any nation. You put esports in your nation, it helps boost your economy of your nation, because the product of esports, everyone wants to buy. Everyone's into buying it. And it creates the jobs that open up from it in terms of broadcasting from different platforms, so network television to social media, YouTube, Twitch, all that type of things, post-production. People are always looking for graphic designers in this digital age is like a must. That's like air for humans. If you want to exist in esports, your brand has to look good. You're going to need a graphic designer. So it creates a bunch of different jobs, a whole lot of different jobs for people to get involved in. But going back to the original point, only a certain section of people are getting those jobs, unfortunately. Right. The reason why that's happening is because certain regions have to look out for their national interest. And so they look for the people that represent their national identity, and those people go first. So unlike the film industry, rather than complaining about it, people just need to go back to their home area regions and develop esports there. Like, look what China did. China came into the game in the less than a decade. China's already a superpower in esports already. And that's because they're focusing on their national identity and they're focusing on their national interest in esports. India's getting involved. They're doing the same thing. So it's not a situation where everyone needs to be complaining anymore. If they feel that they're being marginalized or being discriminated in terms of getting a job in a particular area, listen, they need to broaden their horizons and go travel. If the job that they're looking for is in other regions of the world, and they'll get those jobs quickly if they're willing to relocate and travel. It's like, look at America, man. Remember when back 20 years ago when you had a certain skill, but the area that you were in is taken up, everyone all the jobs was taken up, but then you move to a different area and then or a job like let's say you live in New York, and Seattle goes, we have this job here. Are you willing to relocate? Do you have the skill for that job? Relocate and go there. So for people, so that excuse in terms of like where people feel that they're not getting the job, yes, there is a level of discrimination to it, but we don't live in that age anymore where you're restricted to one particular area. You can simply move to another area, and that job is available for you in that area. Get a LinkedIn account. Stop focusing on posting woke messages on Facebook. Like, get on LinkedIn and post your resume, your experience and what you've been doing in esports. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of companies on LinkedIn that they're looking for people who can help them build their esports business or industry, or willing to partner with you, willing to invest in you, willing to sponsor you. They're out there, man. You just gotta go out there and do the work. You can't limit yourself to one particular region and cry, oh, it's not fair. The world is not fair. So if the world's giving you lemons, make lemonade.
The hustle's still out there, and that's what people gotta realize. You can't just sit back and expect it to come to you. You got to get out there and start hustling.
Yes.
What do you look forward to as far as 2019 for esports?
Well, 2019 is like the pre-Olympics. It's all about setting up for the 2020. So brands need to now get themselves into gear. Countries need to start setting up the representation. I want to make sure that for me, my team is will in some way represent Africa when it comes to the Olympics. So we're working with the Ghana Esports Association and the Africa Esports Championships to prepare Africa to be represented in the Olympics in 2020. I think 2019 is about the large countries. We need America on deck. We need China on deck, Korea on deck, Japan on deck, Europe on deck, Africa on deck, India on deck. We need these countries all on deck to get ready for the Olympics, because 2020 is that year. The suits in this year, the suits are going to create massive opportunities for everyone, inclusively, because it's in the best interest of the suits to do this, to get everyone prepared for that. Once 2020 comes and esports gets its second nod at esports in the Olympics. I say second because the Olympics technically already happened for esports in 2016. I don't know if anyone knows about the E-Games at Rio. There was an esports function at the Olympics in 2016 called the E-Games. A lot of people don't remember that. But so that was technical, but I guess because of the Olympic Committee, this would be the first commercial esports Olympics. That's not even me talking about like World Cyber Games, which was esports version of the Olympics, outside of the Olympic Committee. And then if you're going all the way back to Walter Day's age, where 1983 they had their North American Olympics. So, but if you're talking about official by the Olympic Committee, signed, written off, co-signed with the Olympic logo on it, it's like, nah, this is official. Then we're talking about 2020. And then 2016 as a pre. So it's all about 2019 is all about getting your brands recognized and set. And in 2020, the new race begins. And I wish everyone good luck.
And what's up for you in 2019?
Oh, it's all about Wakanda. Empire Arcadia has returned back to the motherland. We need to strengthen the motherland and prepare for our global battles at the Olympics. So it's for Empire Arcadia. It's we have made it to where we needed to be. We have survived the apocalypse. So now we're back on the motherland, and we're about representing our ethnic group, our national identity as Africans. So in a phrase, Wakanda forever.
Wakanda forever. Nice. Hey, well, I want to thank you very much for coming on our podcast and talking esports, man. It was always insightful, just getting your perspective on things, and especially how esports is going to be expanding in places where people don't always think that esports were. But very, very, very grateful to have you come on our podcast and talk esports with us.
Thanks for having me on, man. We've been at this for like so many years, man. It's good to talk to you again. I still post in your Obsolete Gamer group. I'm sure you see the post.
Oh yeah,
so
definitely.
Always going to support you guys, and I'm glad to see that you guys are growing, and I'm glad to see that you guys are creating yet another platform for some of the voices that don't get heard out there to give their to chime in on the development of esports and gaming as a whole. So thank you for having me on.
Anytime. And we are Alt F4, where pro gamers come to talk about whatever they want to talk about. We're always looking to have more people come on and talk with us and hang out. But until next time, never stop gaming, you guys, and Happy New Year.